Welcome into the Sources Say podcast, your go-to Kentucky basketball podcast on the KSR Podcast Network, presented by our friends at BetMGM. I'm your host, Jack Pilgrim of Kentucky Sports Radio. Very excited for another matinee edition of Sources Say with the one and only Zach Gagan, the Triple G. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Doing great. I think that's my first time getting to see the new intro in action. So I liked the new graphic there that Steven drew up for you. But I think we need to start by saying a happy belated birthday to Jack Pilgrim.
Thank you.
29, just turned 29 yesterday. What'd you do? Any fun things with the family you all did yesterday? What was it like for you?
I actually dropped the kids off at the grandparents, and my wife and I went to the Bats game, and we drank $6 margarita. Well, drank $6 margaritas, and it was Taco Tuesday, $4 tacos. And had just the best time with the weather. It was immaculate. There was like 4 people in the stands at Bats games. I don't know if you've been to a Bats game here recently, but nobody goes.
Actually, like a month ago I went.
Nobody goes. So we were able to go sit wherever we wanted to. We're like, I'm kind of bored with the seat. Let's go on the other side of the stadium and just sit down wherever we wanted. So it was a ball. We had a very, very good time. And then when your parents are divorced and you have in-laws, and I also happen to have family in town this week as well, it's like a custody battle for you and your rights for the week. It's like, I'm claiming you Monday, you have an open night on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday through the week. Like, it's a wreck. So tonight it's actually with my mom, and we have family in town, so we're going to do that. And then the next night it's with dad, and then so on and so forth. So it's crazy. It's hectic. It's turned into a birthday week. But guess what? 29 is worth celebrating a little bit longer, right? Because it's, such a special day, such a special year.
Yeah, it must be nice to have the bad kind of issues where you have so many people that just want to be around you at once. Must be nice to be so loved, huh?
I'm a blessed individual. Very, very grateful. But lots to talk about. A bunch of breaking news. Things just flying in left and right. Basically, all anchored by Mark Pope's appearance on KSR. I thought he was spectacular, just point blank period. I thought he did a great job. I thought Matt did a great job asking the right questions. And, there are times that Matt, I think, will tell you himself that he gets a little, stepping on some heels at times, and kind of once a interviewee is on a roll answering questions, like he'll jump in front and kind of cut them off and ask a follow-up question before they can get in. And at the start of the interview, it got a little bit oversteppy for a second, but it was exactly how the interview needed to go, because Mark Pope is the king of run-on, just keep going and going and going. And I think Matt actually nailed how, all right, we've moved on from this topic now onto the next. We got through a ton of stuff. It was so much content to fill in that in that 30+ minute interview. So shout out to Mark Pope, shout out to Matt Jones. You guys nailed it. But a lot of stuff for us to dig into, and stuff that we've already reported on, stuff we've dug deeper in on KSR Plus and the message board, and even on just some of these podcasts. So we can dig into the quotes and what it all means and all that. But I think the biggest story with it all, I guess, is just the most timely one, is that the team is off to Las Vegas. Viva Las Sin City Cats Vegas, whatever the team is calling it right now. Missed opportunity for Lex Vegas. I feel like that's the one that just makes the most sense.
Yeah, that's the easy one.
They are off to Las Vegas to take in the Summer League. I've heard that they're going to the Sphere to watch Kenny Chesney in concert. Interesting choice of concert choice, but hey, you know what?
Taylor Swift wasn't available, I guess.
Usman Njai, he likes what he likes. You know what I'm saying? So they're doing that. They're practicing over there, doing the strip one night. Some strict rules on not spending all of their NIL dollars, which I think was a very funny thing. But just your general, now that it's been confirmed and we know that they're on their way today, what was your takeaway from the Las Vegas trip for the Kentucky Wildcats?
Oh, well, I like that they're going to do a bunch of practicing down there. I'm sure that'll be fine. Do you know exactly where they're going to practice? I imagine it'll probably be a UNLV facility, or where they do the Pangos camp, something like that. Do you have any idea where they're actually doing that?
I don't know right now, but we will get to the bottom of that here in the next couple. They're just starting to, they're making their way out there now. But once we get some eyes and ears on the scene, I will have us covered.
Yeah, I'm excited for them to go. I think it'll be a fun trip. It's just a nice, easy way to go hang out, enjoy each other's company, do a little bit of basketball in the morning. I'm sure maybe in the afternoon too, and then go have fun and enjoy Vegas at night. Use your NIL money. Most of these guys are over 21s or 21 and over. I think wasn't it Milan who said at the player interviews, he was talking about like drinking at 4th of July parties and stuff like that. Sometimes I forget that these like, I'm just so used to having the one and done so often that you forget that, you can have 22-year-olds on your college team and they can go and party and have fun. So I think all that'll be fun. Going to watch the summer league, that'll be awesome. Getting to watch Ortega, Amari. Well, maybe not Ortega. He's got he's in a boot again. It's the summer. It's
this damn program in the
it doesn't matter if you leave Kentucky or not. You're still going to find some way to get injured. So, but yeah, I think it's going to be it'll be a fun team bonding trip for him. I feel like I had something else I was just about to say on that, but it'll be fun for them, and getting to watch the basketball and just kind of enjoy themselves will be a good team bonding experience for them, I'm sure.
Do you have a favorite Kenny Chesney song, Zachary?
Buddy, can you name a couple for me? I couldn't even tell you a title of one.
She Thinks My Tractor's Sexy. We just saw that Zoom Diallo likes from our Captain
Okay,
Crash.
I do know
She
that
Thinks
one.
My Tractor's Sexy.
That would be hilarious.
Boys of Fall, Summertime. We got just a laundry list of bangers from the one and only Kenny Chesney.
I don't know if I'm a big Kenny Chesney head, a Ches head, a cheese head. I don't know what that. I'm sure he's got some sort of fan base following around.
The Good Stuff is my favorite song from
The Good Stuff. Okay.
It's a good one.
I'm sure
that's a little tearjerker. If you get a little misty eye during songs, that's a good one.
Okay, yeah, maybe Trent Noah will cry in the Sphere listening to Good Stuff by Kenny Chesney.
I have seen, though, in the Sphere, they do a massive, like, Saturday football in Knoxville and Neyland Stadium, like he's a diehard Tennessee fan. So there's like a Tennessee volunteer, like, segment of the concert that, I don't know if the team knows this, but, like, they better be prepared to boo their asses off during that segment. Like, you can't just like willingly watch a bunch of orange nauseating garbage on your 360 degree just 4D 8D or whatever it ends up being.
It'd be cool to go. I've never been. If anyone in the chat has been to the Sphere before, let us know what it's like, because I've only seen the videos of it from afar, and like when they turn it into emoji on the outside or something like that, or like
pretty cool.
Sleeping something. But what I was going to say, I remembered. I still would probably rather them do the summer trip. We can kind of tie this all in together, like an actual foreign trip, go play basketball and things like that. I would rather them do that than this. It was kind of funny how they were branding it in the marketing with the social media stuff yesterday. Not, just saying, hey, we're going to Vegas. Not really saying why. They're just going there to hang out really and have fun, not to play basketball necessarily. But Mark Pope during his interview today did kind of, there were two things that he kind of politicked around the answers on. Summer foreign trips was one of them, and then the summer camps, like the father-daughter, father-son camps, were the two that he kind of like politicked around a little bit. Because it sounds like there's a weird like waiver situation with potentially still going on a summer trip. Like, I don't really know what that means. Like, is this like we are going whitewater rafting, and if you have to sign a waiver, so if you fall off the raft and knock your head, you can't sue them? Like, I don't know what the waiver would look like for that, but I'd rather them do that type of stuff. I will say what Mark Pope mentioned, how, and I don't think maybe I did know this, it was just old news, but they have longer practice hours now during the summer, so they can practice more. The main part with those summer trips was you got an extra however many days of practice hours to spend on those trips. And now you can, like, I don't know if you get the same amount that you can just use throughout the summer whenever you want, but you can still make up some of that, some of those hours that you would get on the foreign trip in terms of practice. You can use them back home in Lexington. So, and I think that's the main thing you want out of those trips, is just to play more basketball. So if they can translate that into practice more, we've seen the teams go on these summer trips, and I think they, like, the first thing that comes to my mind is Rob Dillingham kind of just getting his ass kicked in Canada for those 3 or 4 games, and then his realization after that of being like, if I don't get stronger, I'm gonna fail pretty quickly. And ironically, that's kind of the reason he's failing in the NBA right now, is he's not big enough. But at least at Kentucky, he learns how to kind of brace himself for that a little bit more. So I'd rather them do the summer trip. I don't think it's necessarily a huge deal, but if the team bonding still works and they can get in as much practice as possible going to Vegas, then sure, why not? Why not go have some fun with it and enjoy yourself? It'll be hot down there, I'm sure, so they can maybe do some outdoor sprints, as Mark Pope loves to make them run.
I think if you can't guarantee that the foreign trip, like, I appreciate that they didn't just totally punt on the foreign trip, and they said, like, no, we're still trying. Like, if we can get this waiver passed by the NCAA, we're still going to do both. But I'm glad that they're at least doing something, because yes, it is fun to beat up on, 38-year-old drunk guys at, in the Bahamas that have been hungover playing craps all night at the casino. Like, yes, there is fun in watching them on SEC Network, and like from a fan perspective, it means a lot to us for those events. But how much truly are the players getting out of that competition that they're not getting from more 5-on-5 runs out in Las Vegas, while still getting all the team bonding? Like, just as much of the important stuff as the competition from the Bahamas trips and whatever is the water slide stuff and going out on the boat to all. It's the equivalent of that, where they're able to just spend time together and learn each other and have meals together and like all of the team bonding stuff that every team needs. I do think they got a little aggressive with it last offseason, where they did 4 or 5 events every single week and constantly on the road doing something, and they got tired of each other by the end of the summer. This is a perfect, like, hey, we're taking a bros trip to Las Vegas and we're going to go hang out, watch some summer league. It sounds like a bachelor trip. We talked about this being our bachelor trip literally with you. That's kind of
supposed to be my bachelor trip until I realized that you have to have the funding of a public university to be able to afford to go to summer league for a couple of days
NIL
just to watch
dollars.
these basketball games. Yeah, like, it's insane how expensive this is for just the common man. So I can only imagine how much UK is spending to house them and get them. These tickets are insane for the summer league deals. Like, it's pricey to go down there. So we quickly had to nix that idea in favor of something a little bit cheaper. It all worked out, but yeah, like, Mark Pope stole our idea, Jack. Like, this was the idea for me for my bachelor trip.
You nailed it. It was a good one. So I'm glad they're at least doing something, whether or not I'm hoping that we can get both. Like, how cool would it be to do this, and then they get back next week, and then they announce, hey, in 2 weeks we're going to, Bahamas again. I don't know. Just to, I don't personally know where.
Do you have any? Do you have any idea what the waiver process? Like, what could that even mean? That kind of threw me for a loop. That word.
So looking at his quote, he kept talking about the 10 days of practice that come with the overseas trips. And he did say overseas. So that's a hint at what we're looking at here with the waiver. But he said that he's trying to convince the NCAA that the 10 days of extra practice that you're getting out of the country against other competition is not much different than, the extended practices that we're getting right now, where the previous rule was 8 hours a week for 8 weeks. But before, it was 4 hours of on-court time, which it was 4 and 4, 4 of on-court time. The other 4 were, film sessions, strength and conditioning, workouts, stuff like that. So his argument is, if we're already able to do 8 hours of on-court work a week anyway, what difference does it make if we're doing it in Lexington or doing it overseas on this trip? So I think he's making up a valid argument, and it would be awesome to be able to do this Vegas trip and then come back and do something else here in the next couple of weeks. So I don't know where it is, but we did get a couple of hints there from Mark Pope on the overseas and 10 days of practice of wherever they would go.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to, like, I mean, hell, could they do something here then? Is that kind of what he's maybe alluding to, doing something closer to home, or would this be a full?
Well, he said overseas. He said the best thing about these overseas trip is you get 10 days of practice. 10 days of practice, or
maybe the waiver is you don't have to do it overseas or something like that. Maybe I'm just overthinking all of this stuff, and it's that, like I said, the two things he was politicking on in that whole interview, which I did think was great. I thought he did really well, and Matt did a good job of like pushing on some of the answers that he needed to. But yeah, the summer camps and the summer trips, it didn't seem like he really wanted to say one way or the other what was actually happening.
As for the other two talking points for us and what we need to be talking about, and again in terms of imminent news and how it relates to the season and the team and the staff, still looking at a 15th roster spot, still looking at that assistant coaching spot. Would not commit to adding either. Didn't commit to not adding either. He was super non-committal about just like, we're leaving the door open for an additional guy, but we're not going to add another player just for the sake of doing so. And then with the staff thing, I think let's start with the staff thing, because it was the first time we've heard him actually address the Jamal Crawford thing, like publicly and officially on the record. So with the Jamal Crawford said, I am been a longtime friend of Jamal Crawford. I know that he wants to get into coaching, all things that we've reported individually. loves Jamal. They have a good relationship. Jamal, if he were to get into college coaching right now, it would be at the University of Kentucky, but is now the right time to give up his cushy NBC broadcasting gig that, saw him go deep into the NBA playoffs where he did a phenomenal job. He said, I think the biggest tell of all of it was, I think there's a good chance coaching is in his future, but he's got a sweet deal right now, and he's got a couple of years left. So that did not come across as somebody that he is expecting to add Jamal Crawford to his staff anytime soon. But he did, when asked, are you going to add somebody to your staff? He said the answer is most likely yes, but I can't tell you when. And then went on again, more politicking about how much he likes the current group as it looks right now, and how well they're working together, and recruiting and so on and so forth.
And I guess another recent rule change was that you can have more like off-court assistants help with in like on-court practice and stuff like that. So you mentioned Matt Santoro, Nick Robinson, another name that I wasn't familiar with, Will somebody.
Will Corbin. He is the assistant video coordinator. You've seen him with the team.
Okay.
And, if you see a picture of him, you will know who he is.
So he's got more voices on the floor, which at least during summer practice, which I'm sure is fine. He did mention, how Crawford has 2 more years on his NBC deal. I think you even mentioned on KS Board that, you can get out of those things pretty.
He has an out in his contract if he can't go to a competitive broadcasting affiliate, but he absolutely has an out in his. The only reason why it's been a conversation this long is because he has an out in his contract for coaching. So that was a little bit of politicking on it. Like the 2 years left on his deal means nothing in terms of him getting into coach. He could become a coach right now if he wanted to.
I mean, if I were Jamal Crawford, though, I'd probably stick with my cushy little NBC job and do all my AAU stuff and kind of be around my kid as much as I can. So I wouldn't blame him if he doesn't take the Kentucky job. But definitely, at what point do you do you want to bring this guy in August? Like, that seems like it'd be a little bit of just a very quick ramp up process for Jamal Crawford. Like, so at this point, if Mark Pope is as confident and loves his coaching staff, he loves his gym. What was the quote about his gym? He said, "I like our gym." He likes basically saying everything, encompassing everything in there, from the assistants to the coaches to the off-court assistants who are now being able to help in practice. He likes all that stuff. So if you really do, then why try and mess up what you've got by adding in someone like a Jamal Crawford or whoever else it might end up being, whether it's a guy with international ties or something like that. Why do that and maybe mess up the flow that you've got? Or maybe that's just part of him trying to pump things up a little bit. And he's maybe, not leading it or telling us the whole story there. But yeah, it definitely makes me feel like the Nick Robinson thing has a little bit more legs, the Ryan Lemon scoop. Oh, and a shout out to Mark Pope for giving Ryan Lemon a shout out during the interview.
Very kind.
Yeah, that was very nice of him. He did not have to do that. I'm sure Ryan appreciated that a lot. But Ryan had the scoop of Nick Robinson, maybe bumping up a little bit, taking on that role. And, Mark Pope mentioned him by name today as a guy that's already doing that stuff. And it sounds like Nick Robinson is doing literally everything. Like he is the Swiss Army knife right now, it sounds like, of the Kentucky basketball coaching staff. So it might make the most sense at this point just to kind of give him a little pay bump or whatever it is and just slide him over a couple chairs and do it that way. So, I don't have a huge opinion whether or not on who they fill and how much, because I just don't know how much is going to actually impact right away. Maybe it's a long-term play. With Jamal, you're thinking ahead to maybe JJ Crawford. That's a long time from now. So I doubt that's really the main reason they're doing that, because he's 2029, I think, right? So he's got a few years. But yeah, if you want another voice in there that you trust and you think can actually help, then go for it. But you're 4 weeks into practice now. You're doing these summer trips. Like, your staff, I think, is kind of what it is right now. So, but it does sound like he's going to add somebody. So it's just a matter of who it is, and is that person. Are you confident in throwing that person into the fire and not messing with what you say is a good thing going right now?
It's so tricky too, because again, I've heard on my end, and I've reported this on KSR Plus, that Nick Robinson has been aggressively pursuing this job. Like, he has been a nut in that building, trying to prove time and time again that this is his job. He wants it, aggressive in, hosting individual workouts and like, super hands, like the things we love about Mikhail McLean being hands-on and wanting to be in the mix in practice. Nick Robinson is doing kind of going above and beyond. He's already been on the road at a bunch of these recruiting events. Like he's been an active interim assistant up to this point anyway, while waiting for this move. So I understand on, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Mark Pope likes how his gym feels right now, how the synergy of all of, the guys and how they're operating together and how they're leaning on one another in team meetings. All of that is great, but you can't have it both ways when you had the opportunity to make Nick Robinson an assistant coach coming from BYU, because he was an assistant for you at BYU, and you didn't have the trust to say, you can be that guy for us at the University of Kentucky. And this is an insight on, I know that Mark Pope has a ton of trust in Nick, and they have a very, very tight knit relationship. But you would think that if Nick was good enough to be an assistant at BYU, that he would have been one of the Cody figures of the transition, the first party, first time around. But why is it taking 2 years for Nick Robinson to get the call up to the big leagues as an assistant coach rather than being a Dobo for 2 years? You can't, I like him. I think he works harder than just about anybody in that gym. I think he is diligent to a T. He's like obsessive over this stuff. And that's where his value comes. But I just question about, did we dig too deep in the Jamal Crawford stuff? Like, could he have gotten somebody back before if he hadn't chased this? Because that was kind of the talking point with Tyron Stokes, with some of these other 5-stars that they could have gotten in the 26 recruiting class, that if we hadn't chased Tyron, could we have landed a top recruiting class, had we committed earlier? Was there an assistant out there that could have been in the same boat that we were chasing Jamal? That part I do not know, but it does just kind of feel like, well, we couldn't land our guy, so we're just going to kind of talk ourselves into this current move. But the fact that he says that the answer is most likely yes, but I can't tell you when, suggests, hey, we're comfortable with where things are right now. The operation is good right now, but we're still going to have an eye open for somebody whenever that time comes. I continue to hear that they're really prioritizing the international push, that is a big, big, big thing for them moving forward. They got to have somebody on the road at all times to, hit on the next Nikola Kusarica, the next big name international at Aymara. Like, go hit on the next guy and bring him over to the States. So I think there's a little bit of truth in both, that had Pope had it his way, I think he would have hired somebody else. But, is it more about the options left on the table at this stage?
Yeah, it might be just a wait and see thing. Like, I guess, I don't know how Nick Robinson feels about it, but to me, just kind of how we've talked about it as we're talking, or kind of talking it through out loud, it definitely sounds like Nick Robinson is the backup option, and they're just going to try and continue to survey and canvass the other candidates and options that are out there. And if we get to a point where we know that's not going to happen, we feel comfortable sliding Nick over to this spot and just let him continue to do what he's been doing. Essentially, he'll just have a different title.
Yeah. And again, I like him, but the way I view it is, he was going to be in the building one way or the other. So what difference does it make if he gets the promotion? Like, why not? If you can get a creative name like a Jamal Crawford, and again, like Mo Williams was creative, and like that's just been in a home run.
Here's the other thing,
home runs.
Exactly. But the difference between, I think we just kind of equate like Mo Williams and Jamal Crawford being former NBA players together. Mo Williams was the head coach at Jackson State for 5 years, like 5 years, 4 years, something like 5 years, I think. Like, Jamal Crawford doesn't really have, I mean, unless I'm just forgetting something, he doesn't have any college coaching experience that I can think of. Like, I'm sure he has some coaching experience with his kids and all that.
He coaches 16U, baby.
Yeah,
you're not there in the trenches with him on Tuesday mornings at 8 a.m. and on EYBL sessions.
That's very true. But I mean, I think something that needs to be asked is like, okay, is Jamal Crawford even a home run hire? Like, like I think it'd be good from the recruiting standpoint, but is that the only reason you want to bring this guy in? Like, I feel like that's what Mo Williams is. He's already kind of proven the fact that he is the recruiting closer. Like, he's helped, like, he's already gotten that nickname. He's been able to generate a lot of buzz and on the trail, and is already a respected name. So I'm sure, the recruits really like Jamal Crawford and all that, but how is he as an actual assistant coach? Like, is he someone that's really, he's been doing the the announcing stuff? Is he dead set on changing his entire career and doing this? And will he even be good at it? Like, I think that is something that needs to be asked. Like, I have no reason to believe he can't, but at least with Mo Williams, you have a track record. Like, the guy wasn't a head coach at Jackson State for so many years. Maybe he wasn't the greatest and didn't win a bunch of games, but he still has done this for a long time. He knows what the environment is like. And now he's in a role that's better suited for him, where he can be the assistant and kind of just be the liaison between, like the recruiting guy. Just basically like, okay, I'm going to be the guy that talks and relates to all these kids, and I'm going to get them to come to Kentucky. And maybe that's just what he wants Jamal Crawford to do too. And maybe he can succeed in that role. But I would trust Mo Williams to be a better actual college basketball coach, because he just has history doing it, as opposed to Jamal Crawford. So I don't know if that's maybe the wrong way of thinking of it, but that's just something that's popped in my head a little bit.
I think it's a popularity thing. It's the Jamal is a kid that every kid growing up played on 2K. Like, he was just
dude. He's my favorite player for like 2 years in high school out of nowhere.
He was so good. He was so unbelievably good. So there's a lot of, that part of it, just the cool factor where it doesn't really matter what his acumen is as a high level basketball coaching mind at this stage, but he's clearly got, the basketball IQ as a player. And he's a relationship guy, he's a networking guy, he's a guy who relates to, the generation. We're hearing what Mo Williams' just reputation beyond just what he is as a coach and, the X's and O's, but how he's relating to these players. Every interview we've done with a 5-star since Mo Williams hired has been, that dude is an MFer. I love Mo Williams. I think it'd be more of the same, and just adding more of those types of voices in your gym. I'd heard on my end, and I'll kind of give just a little bit on what I've heard on Kentucky's pursuit of Jamal. But the first pitch to Jamal was, you're going to have free reign to identify talent, evaluate talent, go offer scholarships to the guys that you believe are NBA guys like you. You can go close. Like, you don't need to lean on me, Mark Pope, as a, hey, can I sign off on this kid getting offered? It's you have total control, autonomy on the recruiting trail. Go get us dudes. Mo has gotten a lot of that. So maybe Pope is viewing this as Mo's doing a better job than anybody probably imagined at this quickly. So maybe, that's why it has been such a sharp pivot to the international conversation. So the way I have understood it for like even the last month plus is that they have not shut the door on Jamal as long as Jamal has kept it open, but there's not been much optimism in the building that they've been, and I know there's been a lot of nonsense on Twitter from people just making stuff up about, it's already been a done deal, agreed to, we're just waiting for the end of it. Like, that's not true. There has been a level of pessimism in the building that it was going to actually get done, saying like, we hope, of course I would love to see Jamal take this job, but I'll have to see it to believe it, has been kind of just the general vibe around that building. So, and I think until further notice, they're not going to turn him down. If he were to, after Peach Jam, say, all right, let's do this stuff. I'm ready to take this job. They would say, job's yours, not even thinking twice about it. But, I just don't think that there's an overwhelming confidence that it's going to just be this, July 20th hits after Peach Jam and he's going to, magically take the job. I just don't think that's the reality.
Well, so I've floated this idea to you, I think like a week or two ago. Can I bring up my little tinfoil hat candidate?
Do it. Yep.
Rajon Rondo.
Oh, I love it so much. That'd be so sick.
He just makes more sense. You have the UK angle, and maybe you don't want to lean into that too much. But he was just one of the top 5 candidates for the New Orleans Pelicans head coaching job. He was a top 5 candidate. He interviewed with them. They were serious about going after him, and they went with a guy who's already been a head coach in the NBA. I know that Rondo has, I think, multiple now, maybe even 2 different legal run-ins where, doesn't necessarily put him in a favorable light. Under the Mitch Barnhart administration, I see no world where Rajon Rondo gets hired as an assistant coach at Kentucky. Sure. Under the J-Bat era, maybe it's a little bit, maybe it makes a little bit more sense. Maybe he's more willing to take a swing on that. I definitely think that Rajon's more of a reserved guy compared to Jamal. So if you want him to be the recruiting side of it, maybe Jamal's a better aspect for that. But Rajon Rondo is going to be a coach sooner rather than later. He's very adamant. He's been adamant for multiple years now. He was on Doc Rivers' staff as a support guy for multiple years. He wants to do coaching. Does he just want to skip the whole college thing and goes right to the NBA? It does kind of seem like that a little bit. But he doesn't have any coaching experience as well. Like, you want to get yourself up to the NBA ranks, maybe you had to work a little bit slower, come coach at Kentucky as assistant for a couple of years, then try and move up for that way. So I don't know. I have zero idea. I'm sure you would know more than me. It doesn't sound like his name has even popped up or anything on any of this, but he makes more sense to me as Kentucky assistant than Jamal Crawford does just from all the things. And he also has a young kid, a 2030 recruit, Pierre Rondo, who is probably going to be the best player in the state in like 6 months, something like that. Like a future, if he grows 5 more inches, he'll be a 5-star high school recruit pretty quickly. So that's Pierre Rondo, who I'm talking about, plays for North Oldham up in Goshen near Louisville there. So there's no reason to believe that Rondo's a candidate or anything like that, but it just makes a little bit more sense than Jamal Crawford. Do you have any reason to believe that I'm being silly?
So if you may remember, we actually broke the news that Cal really tried hard to add Rondo to his staff back in the day, and they had conversations. And well, the funny part of it was kind of similar how the Jamal Crawford thing, and I can tell the Jamal Crawford story here too, but like that was actually a BBN thing with Jamal, that there were no talks. Kentucky fans kind of floated that idea out there, and then internally they were like, have you thought about Jamal Crawford? And they were like, I mean, we could make a phone call, see if he'd be interested, but highly doubtful. Makes a phone call. He's like, yeah, of course I'd listen. And it kind of became well, wait a minute. All right. Well, what would be the term? Like, what would the terms look like? What would this even look like? The logistics of all of this. So it kind of became, it was this totally made up thing on the internet that fans actually helped turn it into a reality. So shout out BBN for at least making Jamal Crawford's, candidacy a real one. But with Rondo, it was kind of similar in that regard, where he'd been around the program. Cal floated that out there to him and was just like you're a coach, man. Like you need to get into coach. And if you're going to be, that was right around the time Rondo started taking classes again at UK and saying like, hey, I want to become I want to graduate. So that was Cal's idea at the time, saying, hey, I already got Ulyss on staff, but he's taking classes. You can do the exact same thing. So he actually, there was an event in Lexington where he actually said, like, hey, I'm told, a couple fans in the audience, like, hey, I'm adding Rondo to my staff. And it became this like thing there for a minute without digging deeper into the legal side of it, with Rondo not having his degree yet, having his own AAU program at the time, which was a massive NCAA
still. Yeah.
That would have been an NCAA violation at the time. So it was one of those, like, they kind of tried speaking it into existence, saying, yeah, I mean, if it worked for Ulyss, we're definitely going to make this work. And it was like, actually, yeah, I don't think this is possible. And Rondo wasn't willing to give up his AAU program at the time. So it was like, that kind of sucks. But I think the way Rondo came back for when he got inducted in the UK Hall of Fame, and then he got his degree later. He said, I'm going to be, Cal invited me to be around the program as much as possible. And I'm going to, try to get my hands on these kids as much as I can as like a volunteer friend of the program instead of an actual official assistant coach. So it kind of like, it was this dream that Cal had that was like quickly shut down by the legal side of things with the NCAA. So that part sucked, which brings me to my point. He would probably have to, if not give up his AAU program,
hand it over,
or change the name of it instead of Rondo.
It's literally called Rondo Academy.
Yeah, he'd have
and
to.
He coaches Pierre currently for that team as well.
So that it would definitely be a sticking point. But like that's why so many NBA teams, like Anthony Black, like Beckham Black, plays for AB Elite. It is the Anthony Black elite team on the EYBL circuit. So NBA players can fund and sponsor their own. Tyler Hero, go down the list of all the, their NBA guys are able to do that, but there's the NCAA distinction that they're not legally allowed to. So he would definitely have to, if not give up the program entirely, rename it, give up ownership of it and all that stuff. But hey, I'm all the way for it. Rondo, if you're interested, buddy, the more the merrier on this bench. I think it would be an absolute freaking home run if Pope could pull it off. So, lots of fun stuff there with the staff stuff. I'd still keep an eye out on the international path. That's probably my runaway favorite for this stage, at least. My runaway favorite for favorite betting service is our friends at BetMGM. Time to pick
Nice.
them throughout the world's game. You can predict what will happen each day for a chance to win bonus bets. Go for a share of $10,000 each day of the world's game. For each day of the tournament, you can predict what will happen. If your total is the highest, you'll win a share of bonus bets. How to get this offer in 3 easy steps. 1, enter the world's game, $250,000 pick 'em free to play game. 2, answer questions each day of the tournament to make predictions on what will happen. And 3, if you get the most picks right that day, you will win a share of bonus bets with our friends at BetMGM. Shout out BetMGM. In terms of adding another player, we've heard on our end, Zach, that the talent right now, and I put this in some of my insider notes on KSR Plus, but the talent right now is very good. A team that is confidently a second weekend Sweet 16 Elite 8 level team, which is very good. Something that would be an upgrade from what we experienced last season, obviously. But the vibe, at least around practice, is that they are missing something in terms of star talent. That they need a 15th. If they're going to use this 15th spot, the way Pope is saying, it needs to be a talent upgrade piece, not a project, not a long-term, stuff at the end of the bench, red shirt kind of deal. Like we need to add a talent upgrade for them to clear the gap to championship status. A, do you agree with that? And B, did anything Mark Pope say today change your mind or your thinking on that with how he phrased what he likes about the team, doesn't want to change too much, creators, blah, 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 but said that they're definitely looking for a 15th, but it has to be the right fit.
I mean, I don't think there's going to be I'm sure there's other international guys out there that can maybe be immediate impact players, but you're not going to find one better than Costa Rica, who's, I don't know if you watched any of those FIBA games, but he was maybe the best player out there. Like, I don't remember exactly where Serbia finished. Maybe did they lose to the U.S. in the championship game?
Yeah, and he dropped 37 freaking points in that one. Like
he was, he was on the World Cup team. He was one of the best 5 there. Like it was him, 2 other Americans, and a couple of other guys. He kind of had you had your doubts of like, could he come in and be an immediate impact guy as a 17-year-old freshman? Like maybe you'd have to wait until he was 18 as a sophomore before really being that guy. But it looks like the kid can come in and be like a real ball player right away. So, I'm sure there are other international options out there, guys that are a little bit older, maybe have tried to go to the NBA and have failed or things like that, or played professionally a couple of years over there. But like, you're probably just looking at another guy on like the level of an Usman Njai, who could still be a contributing player and things like that. But is that, and if you can find that player, then sure, go get him and you can have an extra piece. But I don't know if that really, that's not going to really change the roster. Like adding another guy on the talent level of Njai maybe gets you from being the preseason number 15 to the preseason number 13 or 14 or something like that, So I don't know how much that would actually move the needle too much. It was kind of funny when Pope was doing his interview with KSR. 2 different times his phone went off. And the first time it went off, I think maybe they were talking about something off the air, and Matt was like, "Oh, is that the recruit? Is that the player?" So I think they were talking about something that maybe there was a recruit already kind of in the crosshairs. And then later when it went off, Mark Pope goes, "Ooh, that's an important one," or like, "That's a big one." It's like, "No, I'll wait to answer that one later." So I don't know if maybe is that Costa Rica, he's the World Cup is over now. Maybe he's getting a little bit closer to deciding. It definitely still sounds like UCLA's in the lead for that one there. Or maybe it's just someone else different entirely. Or maybe it's the 27, 28 recruit, just completely different, all along down the road there. So, but, from everything he says, Mark Pope says he likes his team. He's got the players, he's got the pieces that he wanted to, all the things that he mentioned of what he wants. He wants size, length, shooting on the wing. He wants depth and playmaking at the center position. He wants creators at the guard spot. And like, if you look up the roster, at least on paper, he's got all that. So unless you're going to add an immediate star like Mr. Nikola, I'm not sure exactly where you're going to find that. I feel like I say that every 2 weeks, and then like some unknown guy I've never heard of comes out of the woodwork and is, turning into that type of player. Like Costa Rica was kind of that guy. But now, like, there's not another Costa Rica in the World Cup that was doing what he was doing, at least not to my knowledge. There is one, but he's going to Duke as a 17-year-old. So, I'm not sure what that player is or what they would look like. But maybe at this point it's injury insurance. Like you still got the whole Cam thing. Big Frank is obviously the long injury history with him, and he's not working out as well right now. Like Reese Potter has a little minor thing too. Pope said that Trent Noah tweaked his hamstring. I don't even know why he said that, because that's probably something that will be done with by next week. He'll be recovered from. That's just kind of to kind of make the BBN a little bit more nervous. But yeah, maybe it's just more injury insurance type stuff, which in that case, like, go get anyone you can. Like, I don't think that's going to be a huge deal. So, but it sounds like it sounds like Mason Williams is going to play. So you've got some depth there at the backcourt. And I really do think Mason Williams is going to play minutes this year. Like, I don't know how much it'll be or how much, if it'll be consistent, but I think that kid's going to get a chance. So I'm not sure exactly what the plan is for that 15th spot, because we're just getting longer and longer into the summer here, where adding a guy like that is just going to make a little bit less and less sense, unless it is Costa Rica, however you say it.
Ryan Hampton is still reclass eligible. That's one that is, and if you're worried about
another year of high school,
sure,
in my opinion,
but it also 100% has to do with your level of confidence in Cam Williams and or Braden Hawthorne making the jump to the kind of guy that we need to be the championship. Like, we have so many wild cards, or even Usman Njai being better than expected, or a Mason Williams. Like, I think that is definitely the caveat to all of this conversation is, like, we saw when Otega Owe got on campus his first year at Kentucky, all summer long, he was talked about as he's just going to be the eighth man. Like, he's a good player, but never going to be this difference maker. And I was told in September, it was like the lights came on for him. And it was this, I can dominate on this team. Like, I don't have to have this mental barrier of, like, I'm only stuck as the eighth man in the rotation. I can be a starter. I can be a star on this team. And that was when Otega Owe became Tegatron. Like, that was the moment for him. So that's, anybody on the team can be that. That could be a Braden Hawthorne. That can be a Cam Williams when he finally gets back on the floor. That can be an Usman Njai, just kind of slowly but surely, putting the puzzle pieces together and going, hey, I can do this. Like, I can be a high level impact player here. That guy, the championship gap guy, could be within the roster, but the people that I've spoken to that have been at practice, that have watched and seen with their own two eyes, have said, what I'm seeing right now is a very good team capable of making the second weekend, but one that's not capable of winning a championship. That can 1,000% change internally. So that is definitely something that could be something that Mark Pope is trusting his own development and saying Braden Hawthorne is going to be that guy for us. He may not be there right now, but I trust that he's going to be there by the time the ball is tipped on the season. I trust that when Cam Williams finally gets on the floor and we can have his shooting on top of what Trent Noah is doing as the best player in practice, as Mark Pope said today, on top of what Milan Momcilovic is.
Impact.
On top of Alex Wilkins hitting 79% of his threes in practice. Like, Cam Williams could be just the difference. So it's a nuanced conversation that we don't have to just say the team sucks and, it's not a championship standard, fire Pope. Like, we can still say there could be an Otega. Who is this team's Otega? Somebody could break through as a star on this team, which is, as of right now, they're not seeing that yet. I know there's, still a conversation with Kutsaritsa, who I think is just awesome as a player. Everybody I've talked to just raves about him, says that he's better than Bucci at Duke, and he kind of proved that in the championship game against USA. But I've just heard of the train's just too far down the tracks with UCLA, that there was a little bit of a white flag moment with Kentucky here in the last week or so that kind of suggested it ain't happening. I think they held on a little bit longer than, it was trending quickly back toward UCLA, and they were gaining traction and quickly. And Kentucky kind of threw in a couple of last minute Hail Mary attempts to try to make up ground and maybe reflip the momentum back. But I think I think this in the last week they kind of had a moment of this is just not in the cards for us. So I think internally they have moved on mentally at least, and unless that phone call today was from Kusturica, and I don't believe it was with Pope. But I think the train's too far. I think he's going to go to UCLA, and I feel pretty confidently that he's going to be at UCLA. Unfortunately, because that one week where he was trending quickly toward Kentucky sure was a whole heck of a lot of fun. So
well, it was.
Who
learned a lot about Serbian basketball.
I did. I know. Let me rephrase this to you. Who is in your eyes, if there is going to be that Otega-Oweh breakout candidate here, maybe not right this minute, but as we inch closer toward the regular season, who is the guy that becomes that difference maker if it's not an outside addition?
Yeah, I was literally just racking my brain thinking of that, like looking up and down the roster. Like, I don't think it's going to be like a Jerome Morton or a Justin McBride, because those guys are kind of already established at this point. They weren't exactly like Otega, at least was like a top 75 recruit. Like, well, actually, I think Justin McBride was pretty highly ranked too, but he's kind of who he is at this point. Like Otega showed incremental growth at Oklahoma and then really took the leap here. So I don't think it's going to be one of those. Like, I think your options are Braden Hawthorne, Cam Williams, Trent Noah, who can still, like, we're doing this again with Trent Noah for the third straight year. And honestly, I have no doubt that everything they're saying is true behind the scenes. Like, I think we saw with Trent last year, I think some of it is just in between the years. Like, he had the whole month where he just didn't make a 3-pointer. Like, I think some of it was just, he just wasn't as confident as he needs to be. By his own words, he is the most confident he's ever been. So we'll see if that actually translates, and maybe having a more clearly defined role as like a guard, as opposed to trying to be this like small ball 4 or like small ball 3 that he kind of was playing. Like, maybe that helps him a little bit. You got Trent Noah, Njai, Mason Williams, and Braden Hawthorne, Cam Williams. I think of the group of guys that like I would really like to see have that Otega breakout, I think it's got to be Njai, because you're kind of already plugging him in as a guy that's going to play minutes, whether or not he starts at the 4 or shares minutes with McBride at the 4 or comes off the bench behind McBride at the 4. If he can turn into that guy and really break out and be a guy that is just running up and down the floor like a deer, dunking everything, shooting fadeaway 35-footers that they're going in. Like, if he can be that guy that, if he can be the highlight version of himself that we see on the mixtapes, I think that completely changes everything for Kentucky. Braden Hawthorne, like, I don't know. He didn't play all last season. There was a reason he didn't play. He wasn't hurt for most of it, at least. I think maybe he had like a small minor something throughout the season or whatever, but everybody did on that team. I have my doubts that all of a sudden he's just going to turn into this, Otega style level player. Like, Njai's a little bit older, so maybe he's just kind of what he is at this point. Maybe a transition to college is exactly what he needs to unleash everything. I think Cam Williams, like, I'm just not sure I don't think Cam Williams has a leap like that in him. I think Cam Williams is just going to get slowly better and better as his career goes along. I don't know if he has a major jump in him, just because he's not like a super athlete like Otega is. And now he's dealing with this whole foot injury. Like, that's obviously becoming a thing that he's going to have to try and overcome. But I mean, Mason Williams, man, like, I keep coming back to this kid. It sounds like what we did a whole Zoom action on him last week, self-plug there with Brandon and Steven. And man, that kid is good. Pope said he has a college-ready body. He's not lying. The kid is built he's built like Jalen Brunson. Like, that's the size that he is, like a 6'2", 6'3", 210-pound, just kind of like bully guard. Obviously not the same player in any regard at all. But I do think he has the potential to be, and Mark Pope even mentioned this. Today was the first time I felt like we've ever heard him say a Caden Lewis's name, like by name, of being like, losing him sucked. Like, that killed us. And then having Jalen Lowe go down really just like, because he's definitely kind of mentioned the not having a backup point guard before, but unless you remember another time, that was the first time I remember him saying losing to Caden Lewis stunk. Like that. He's said
in a couple of interviews now, we lost some guard depth unexpectedly, which we knew that meant a Caden, but he has not to this point mentioned him by name. So that was the first time that it was like, dude, this loss sucked.
Yeah. And like, it doesn't matter that he actually said the name, but it was just, it's clear. It's like, okay, he's saying everything that we already knew. It's like, yeah, losing to Caden Lewis sucked. Then having the whole Jalen Lowe thing compounded it. So I do think with Mason Williams, you can kind of insulate that as a potential, like you can make that you can rely on him to play minutes. I genuinely believe that. So I don't know. Again, I don't know how much it'll be and all that stuff, but I think it needs to be Njai to be your breakout guy, because then you can have a real 4. Then you've got 5 guys at every, like your 5 starters are all going to be guys that are good in Zoom, Alex, Milan, Malachi, and then if you put Uzi there, which I do love, there's going to be some fun potential refereeing.
I asked Trent that. I was like, so what have you seen from Uzi? And I'm like, that sounds ridiculous for me to say.
Yeah,
like,
I can't
I'm a
say
29-year-old.
You're 29-year-old now. Yeah,
I can't.
But you were
say,
28.
Like,
you could say it then.
The big ooze. How's the big ooze come? I'm like, stop. His name is Uzman. You can call him Uzi. My fault. I'm the old head unk. You guys call him. Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeesh. Anyway.
Yeah. So, but if he's the guy, I do think it can change Kentucky's the trajectory of the season. Braden Hoffman, I think, will just be like kind of if it happens, awesome. If it doesn't happen, I don't think it changes much with Kentucky's roster. But like if Njai's not good, that would be like an issue. Like that would be bad, because then you're kind of a little bit drier maybe at the 4, especially if Cam Williams, the injury kind of continues to linger and stuff like that. It would be a little bit more difficult to kind of replace that. Whereas with Braden, if Braden's not good, you've still got all these other guys that are there, and we're just planning on playing anyways. So Braden would be like kind of like the cherry on top, whereas Usman, I think, can really, really change the trajectory of the season if he ends up, reaching the potential that we think he can.
I heard Usman had his best week of practice as a Wildcat last week, but he was pretty darn good. So his issue has been like he just knocked down shooter in individual workouts. Like he'll go in and he was talking about Alex Wilkins hitting 79% of his 100 three-point attempts. In those drills and just set shots of in individual like coaching work, workouts or whatever, like he just makes everything just knockdown shooter of all knockdown shooters. But then once like we actually get to 5-on-5 scrimmage portions of these workouts and practices, he just disappears. Like doesn't make mistakes, doesn't turn the ball over, doesn't play poorly, but also does nothing to stand out. Like he's just like, oh, I kind of forgot that he was even on the floor. This week was the first time that it ever kind of transitioned into, maybe he can do this. Maybe this is what it looks like. And it was kind of that mini breakthrough moment for him. So,
sweet.
Yeah. So, but feeling good about that. And I think it's just the pause with Braden isn't, I just don't want to set an expectation with Braden that he's going to come in and be like, I don't think the Tayshaun 2.0 stuff did him any favors going into the year. But that's also not ruling out somebody that has never played a minute of college basketball, was a late bloomer in high school, that does have all the potential and tools in the world to become that player, can't become that player by October, November. Totally possible. Like there is a very real chance that he is the breakout candidate, and we're all looking stupid that he wasn't the guy, all along. But I also don't want fans to set an expectation of Braden's the guy, Braden's the superstar. You should expect him to be Tayshaun 2.0. And then when the games start and have him underwhelm and then attack the kid unnecessarily down the road because somebody else set an unrealistic expectation for him. Set the expectation low and say, he's coming along. It's a process. He's not there yet, but he can get there. I think is the appropriate way of handling it. I just don't think it's fair to the kid to, I think last year it was a learning lesson for me to not just buy into the excitement and hope of the offseason and say Final Four or bust, championship, because it only sets us up for disappointment down the road if they're not that. So I just want to like read through things, the highs and lows, like the Trent Noah stuff right now. I can look at that and say, if we're viewing it through a lens of, hey, for 10 minutes a game, 10 to 12 minutes a game, Trent Noah is really, really impactful in his very specific niche role, I'm cool with it. Like that should be how we're taking all of this scoop and intel and what Pope is saying is the best player. But like, we shouldn't be taking that and saying, oh, he's going to be starting and playing 35 minutes a game and averaging 20 points a game. Like having a little bit better, just managing expectations a little bit better, I think is the fair way of handling this set.
Well, I think having Milan should help him. Like, if you want to give a guy to try and go be Trent, like try and go be like Milan. And, when we did the interviews with Trent, his big thing was, Pope is really trying to get on him about shot faking, getting into the lane, like trying to be more of a creator, which does lead me to believe that the talk about him being more of a guard next season is true. Like that's probably what's going to happen. Like they want him to try and penetrate, use your gravity to help open things up a little bit in the way that Milan does. Can that actually happen? We'll see. I don't really know. Because again, this is now the third summer in a row where we are hearing all this, all the Trent Noah talk. He's kind of, and to be fair to Trent, like he's kind of gotten thrown in the last 2 seasons into spots that he didn't necessarily think he was going to be thrown into due to all the injuries and everything. So, but like with Braden, it's kind of like both ends of the spectrum. Like you can have multiple expectations for him. Like the expectation is he's not going to play a second, or the expectation that he's going to come in and be like a contributing player right away. Like, so those are like too far the end of the spectrum things. Whereas with Usman or someone like him, you're expecting him to play already. It's just is he going to play 10 minutes a game? Is he going to play 25 minutes a game? Like type. So you already are kind of factoring him into the whole rotational projections anyways. So like I said, with Braden, it would just be more of the icing on the cake if he can end up being that good. But I mean, if Braden ends up being that guy and really can turn it, like he doesn't even have to be Tayshaun 2.0. He just has to come in there, and if he can be as long as he is and just score the ball really well, he will be a good player. We just kind of have to see it before we can, or at least for me, I have to see it before I can believe it, just because the kid hasn't played basketball in forever.
Yeah, totally fair. Quick message from our friends at Zen.ai. The Zen.ai is the home of vibecasting, a new way to capture and share conversations that helps anyone turn a conversation into something worth sharing. A podcast, a reel, or a TikTok with no production skills required. Hit record on the phone, have a real conversation with Zen.ai's AI producer. They handle the rest, clean up, clips, all of it. That simple. Right now, Zen.ai's paying new vibecasters to make their first sportscast about their favorite team. Go live during a game, record your takes after, bring your own co-host, or find one in Zen.ai's network. Zen.ai is currently an invite-only beta, so head to Zen.ai to join the waitlist. What else jumped out at you? We'll start wrapping this thing up. I would say probably the summer camp conversation with Pope. We may go lean more heavily into that, or we may take away summer camps entirely with the father-daughter and father-son stuff. That was an interesting talking point that kind of got some people riled up. Anything else jump out at you from Mark Pope's appearance on KSR?
Yeah, I'm looking through all my notes of here, everything. We kind of touched on most of it. One thing I'd be curious to know where he gets the data for this, but he said that Colin Chandler was the 7th most improved player in college basketball last season. I'm sure that's just in terms of overall, like, base general numbers from his freshman season, sophomore season, because he did go from being a guy that didn't play much to a starter. So I could see that. And he kind of harped on the player development stuff and how they're good at that. And, I saw some posts kind of like pushing back on that, but I do think that Mark Pope has a right to believe that he's a good player developer. Like mentioned Ortega, Amari Williams, Kobe Brea, guys that were just not even in the realm of conversation to be draftable guys before they got here, are now in the NBA. So I do think there's something to that. Colin Chandler got better. Malachi Moreno went from the 3rd string center. I know 3rd string is with an asterisk next to it, but he was the 3rd string center to being the All-SEC freshman team guy by the end of the year. So I believe that, I'm with him on all the developmental stuff and him kind of tipping his own hat to himself on that. I'm here for it there, because I do think he's got a point there. He did kind of double down on the Ferrari comments from last season.
Good call. Great call.
And his reason, and that was kind of what got into the whole Caden Lewis. That's where he mentioned Caden Lewis, not having him. And he said that if he could run that roster back healthy, he would. And I mean, I don't necessarily I'll say it like this. I would have loved to have seen what that team would have been if Jaden Quaintance was healthy from the jump, if Jalen Lowe never got hurt, if a Caden Lewis had stayed, if you had those 3 factors, and then Cam Williams doesn't break his foot, midway through the SEC. Like if you can run that team with a mostly healthy roster from start to finish, where Jaden Quaintance is not, you don't have this whole debate in December, like he's playing basketball games in October. I would have loved to have seen what that team could have done, because obviously they would have been better than the round of 32. Like they probably make a Sweet 16. Could they make an Elite 8? Who knows? So I would have, I'm not sure I would have wanted to try and run that back actually this season. Like if we could have repeated that and had that same roster again going into this season, because I do think there was still some flaws there in terms of just scoring the basketball and dribbling. I think there were some struggles there overall. But I would have been interested to see what it actually would have played out there had he gotten the chance to have a fully healthy roster there. Because and he's mentioned it multiple times, we did get a little small taste of it with the second half of that St. John's game, which was genuinely like a ton of fun. Like one of the most fun basketball games we've had of the Mark Pope era was that second half where him and Jalen Lowe were just like picking apart a Rick Pitino defense for basically a whole half of basketball on the road too. So that was pretty impressive. But yeah, I did think those type of things were notable. I think that's really all of it. He did say it was the best time right now to be a UK fan. I probably wouldn't have said that. maybe hold that one in at the very end as his closing statement. Or maybe just word it differently. Like this is a very exciting time, or maybe an unpredictable.
And we'll
time.
prove it, and we will we want to prove to you that there's never been a more exciting time. Because I think the current state of Kentucky fandom is like,
it is not
I'm
fun,
in
right?
show me, like don't tell me, show me stage, and and he's like, I'm going to tell you again. It's like,
yeah.
no,
So I maybe wouldn't have said that, but yeah, the whole the doubling down the roster and that type of thing. Like I thought those were notable. Did you have anything else from that, or any of those?
And I will say,
I just talked about stand out.
You don't land Denzel Aberdeen if you keep a Caden Lewis. So the guy who saved your season from tanking down the stretch is also the guy that you would not be getting as a. So are you banking on Colin Chandler to stay in his same position as and Jalen to be a tangible upgrade over Denzel as the main point guard, and then a Caden to be a clear difference maker guy as your backup point guard? Does Caden play so well that he has to work his way into the starting lineup? Those are some of the questions that, and a Caden still
went to the NBA, you know?
Yeah. So there's still some confusion. What did a Caden shoot from three last year?
He was bad. He was like high 20s, I think.
27%. So you're getting a clear downgrade at shooting from a massive upgrade in playmaking and creation. But Denzel Aberdeen, the better shooter, doesn't turn the ball over. I mean, he was he saved the team from really
he only saved the team because he got, he was a good player until he really transitioned to that point guard spot, and then that's when he kind of grew into being like one of the better players on the team. So maybe you don't need Denzel. Like maybe you can just kind of run with the Ortega, Colin Chandler, Jalen Lowe, Caden Lewis trio, and maybe that's enough to work. So I don't know, but it really would have been interesting to see what would have happened had he had. I mean, just throw Denzel in there just for the sake of the argument. Like it'd be an interesting team. Like I would have been very curious to see how that all would have played out with him had they had all those guys healthy, plus a Caden Lewis and Denzel.
And Pope talked about Jaden Quaintance just got drafted 20th overall in the first round, playing 4 games, and one of them was 7 minutes against Bellarmine. The other 2 total non-factors. Like the only
Alabama game
he
looked
actually
bad.
In Missouri, he got beat up and really didn't look great either. Like the only game that he played relatively well, and really it was a half. Like he did some interesting stuff in the first half, but it was the second half that he just took the game over and won the game for Kentucky in that second. So he got drafted that high again. The Arizona State sample size, his 5-star top 5 recruit sample size in high school, but recency bias, it was the second half against St. John's was what got drafted as high as he did. So him playing all season long, or I guess just from January all the way through March, potentially April, like that was a difference in my opinion. I think if you get Jaden, that's just total game breaking talent on the defensive end that Kentucky no longer has, and allows Malachi to not have his kind of he hit a wall there at the end of the season that I don't think he would have hit had he had Jaden as kind of a counterpart. Brandon Garrison was fine down the stretch, but still just as inconsistent as ever. So I think the team was 1,000% going to be better, but it's just a little bit revisionist history with the Denzel Aberdeen angle with it. Want to run through the notes real quick to make sure. Does the summer camp thing, does that bother you at all?
Not having the summer camps?
Yeah.
Doesn't bother me. I didn't go. So Doesn't affect me
Um,
too much. I never was privy enough to be able to afford that as a kid anyways. So we would go to the Transylvania camps that were a little bit cheaper back in the day. Coach Brian Lang, shout out Brian Lane.
do you buy what he had to say about the fan and media criticism as the head coach at Kentucky? I think that's where we will end this sucker.
Sorry, say that again.
How Matt asked him about how he handles, criticism, and does the stuff that you said you talked a big game when you first got to Kentucky that, hey, when I lose games, I want you to rip me. When I'm the program isn't to the standard that it's meant to be as a championship title perennial contender, and if we're not that, then you need to rip me for it. Now that you've actually hit that point where you got the criticism, do you have anything have you changed your mind on all about it? And he said, absolutely not. I got ripped the way I deserve to get ripped. Defended himself with the injury stuff with this past season, but said that he's not bothered by the criticism.
I mean, I'm sure he is, but you're not going to say that out loud, and I'm sure there are varying levels and of how much it annoys him, and maybe it comes and goes over time. He did kind of mention how some reporting may have gotten out and maybe impacted how a family was perceiving the recruitment or something like that. Ultimately, I don't think that ended up mattering. But that's part of the job, buddy. I'm sure he sees or hears about some of it. I'm sure there's someone telling him about it, but you just gotta brush it off. And I do like that he kind of defends himself a little bit. Some people might look at it as whining a little bit. I don't necessarily I think it's smart to downplay it and then kind of explain why you're downplaying it. So, I mean, we're sitting here, we spent the last hour and a lot of it has been, a lot of it's been positive, but a lot of it has been, a little bit questionable too. So this is just part of the gig, but
I didn't
think
love
for the most part he handles it.
The postseason comments about my winning record compared to my first two versus the last four. Yeah. Here's why I'm not. I thought that was a little buddy, stop. Nothing you say right now is going to make.
I was trying too hard to explain it away.
Yeah, but I think that just putting it out there bluntly, what would you do if you had this vision for this roster and it was Jalen Lowe, Caden Lewis as our point guards, and Jaden Quaintance as our starting center, and then you get none of them throughout the year? You tell me what you would do. That kind of added a human element to it to me, where it was yeah, you know what? I bet that really was freaking hard for you to try to navigate and have some, you get your teeth knocked in against Michigan State and the Champions Classic, in the building that you've said is the only thing that, second only to Rupp Arena, the biggest stage possible with ESPN and, Champions, all that stuff. You get your teeth knocked in and you have to go to a podium. What do you say? There was kind of why did I look helpless and lost and not knowing what to do? It's well, what would you do if you didn't have your star player? The guys that you thought you were going to have aren't going to be there. And then the next layer of talent isn't good enough to get the job done. What would you say? That I think added a level of, okay, that's fair. I can hear you out on that. So we'll see how a very pivotal, year 3 for him. There's a lot on the line here. Internally, there's some buzz of hey, we got to show me something. Show me that you're alive here. We got some Dark Pope conversation and the beard and all that stuff. That he's he said something to that effect.
Dude, I want to be get it done Pope, not Dark Pope.
That's what he said. He said I don't know what Dark Pope means, but it's get it done Pope. It is sure. Get it done Pope era here in Lexington. So I did appreciate that part of the conversation, and it was believable, very, very believable. I guess we can't end without talking about Kirk Risa, because holy hell, those were some freaking fireworks over the 4th of July. Anything you'd like to add about the Kirk Risa debacle that has now taken a very good point guard out of the mix for the Cats with La Familia and TBT?
Well, first of all, shout out to you for breaking that story. It was funny seeing it on ESPN's page and everything of hey, it's I know the guy that broke that whole story essentially, or kind of sparked it all. So congrats to you for doing that.
Thanks.
I will say, it's not. It doesn't sound like it's shocking. Just from some of the stories I've been told, while Kerr was here and since he has departed. Things that like I was never like wanting to confidently tell other people because it's just people telling me stories about a guy, and I was like, things can get lost in translation a little bit, and then this comes out, and I'm like, oh, okay, so maybe some of those stories of him scamming people out of money has a little bit of legs to it because he just got busted by the FBI for doing it for $2.2 million. So, now you're getting all these now you tell me type articles. Like I think it was an Arizona fan site had a big thing come out about all the red flags that maybe should have checked in a little bit more on Kerr when he was coming over from Estonia. It does make me curious of how he kind of passed through the whole UK protocol of it all. Like, the background research going into Kerr before bringing him onto campus. Cause that obviously it's turned into this whole thing. It's a whole big distraction now. It doesn't sound like any of this stuff happened at UK, or like at least hasn't really come out too much like that. Maybe I haven't read the thing too much too in depth, but that could be a whole issue that you have to deal with. So it is kind of interesting how he got cleared to come through UK and everything, but he's also been to 4 different schools. So all these schools cleared him and everything. So I'm sure there was reason to believe that you could kind of push all that stuff to the side. But it's funny that Kerr Kreis's 2 most lasting memories from the Big Blue Nation will be him breaking his foot trying to play defense against Gonzaga, and then getting arrested by the FBI for using the name Irene to sell organs, to fake sell his organs. Just in an absolutely insane story. When you read some of the details of it, that he was, I mean, the balls that he has, and that's probably not even the word to use. Like it's just ignorant, honestly, and stupid. He's about to get punished for it pretty big. But yeah, it sucks because we were going to see him at TBT, man. He was going to be tossing lobs to Khalil Whitney, and now he's going to be tossing lobs in the jail cell. I don't know what comparison.
There are a lot of double entendres that you could be throwing out there for that.
Yeah, so he's got
tossing
a world of
things
pain
in jail.
Yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. Don't I didn't have any real joke in mind. I was just saying words out of my mouth. But yeah, it sucks. I mean, it sucks for all the people that he impacted and scammed money out of and things like that. And it really does suck. And now he's going to get his comeuppance for it.
So just for backstory, and again, I know we're running a little long, but whatever. It's 3:00 on a Wednesday.
What else? What are we doing?
The feedback that I've gotten from people, like, it's hilarious. I mean, this dude's a superstar in Estonia. Like, the dude is a legendary figure in Estonia for, I guess, just what he's been able to accomplish in college basketball. The name and brand that he's been able to establish is kind of like this living, breathing meme in college basketball. They just adore him.
The whole Luka dynamic of it too.
The Luka dynamic. Thing. Yeah, he's a legend over there. I had 6 Estonian reporters, basketball people that have known him for years and know his backstory and the history and all that stuff, that when all this unfolded, because I broke the story, so my name was attached to a lot of the the conversation with Kerr. They would messaged me privately, and a lot of it was like, hey, just so everybody knows, like, his reputation back here is that he has owed a lot of people money for a very long time, and everything that he does in the United States playing college basketball is to repay his old debts in Estonia. That if you have any none of it is genuine about the love of the game, and everything he is doing here is for business. It is his status as a college basketball player, his time at La Familia, the TBT stuff, everything that he does has been business first. I have debts to repay. So when they it was such a sobering thing to hear. And I've heard all of the stuff, I'm sure you have too. And I mentioned this in the past, but stuff, and I'm not going to speculate publicly about, but there's a lot of stuff about, hey, Kerr owes me a couple $100 for this. Hey, Kerr owes me $2,000 for this. I was supposed to hear back from Kerr about $10,000 for this, and he just totally disappeared. This has been a running thing for stop after stop after stop after stop. So it's unfortunate.
The smoke is filling the air. Like there is a bonfire waiting at the end of that smoke that's coming up.
It sucks because he is a likable personality, and he is kind of, like I said, a meme in the college basketball world. Like people just kind of love. He's the guy that you hate if he's on somebody else's team and going against him. But if you have him on your team and within your program, you just adore him. So we got to see a little bit of that.
He was crap talking Duke, and then went and backed it up, and Kentucky beat Duke. Like that was kind of his positive moment at UK when he was making that viral moment.
It was awesome. The Luka stuff was awesome. You talk trash, like you love him on your team, but the reality is all of it was a facade, and none of it is real. And it's sad that we've kind of gotten to this point where just kind of time to pay the piper, and kind of caught up to him. It was funny. One of my Estonian sources, bizarre words to come out of my mouth, and never
one of my Estonian sources,
never
implying that you have multiple sources in Estonia.
Now I do, and I didn't have them this time last week, but they said that they kind of had been operating as if he just re-signed with an Estonian overseas professional team, so he was going back home. So
he wasn't coming
internally back home for him. They were viewing it as, oh, good for Kerr. He paid off. He got enough money to pay off all of his old debts. Like, shout out Kerr. He's able to, he was able to get past his bad life and some of the choices that he's made in the past. And he's able to come home, because he sure as hell wouldn't be able to come home if he still owed a bunch of people a ton of money. Like it'd be really difficult to and very publicly return home. It's not like he just kind of snuck his way back to Estonia. He publicly signed with a professional team back home. So there was this like assumption that like, oh, he must have gotten all of his stuff cleared up, and good for Kerr for kind of, moving past his ugly past. And then he gets arrested by the FBI days later. It's just like,
you have to wonder, like, was he close to like trying to skip out of town or something? Like maybe it was fast tracked a little bit. Like, I don't want you to, tell how you got tipped off about it or anything, but it sounds like, if he was going to go play basketball in Estonia, that was going to happen pretty soon, you'd have to think. So he was probably going to leave the country very soon. And you have to think if he owes $2.2 million in scammed money to people, he was not going to be coming back anytime soon.
Yeah, that part I don't know. I mean, it was very public return to Lexington for TBT and La Familia. Like, would he be willing to do that as loudly and publicly as he would here if he hadn't got it cleared up? That part I don't know. But was this his last? Was this his last? Like, I had heard whispers in the last couple of weeks that he had, was really getting aggressive in trying to make up a couple of $100 here and there, just like on the prowl for money. But was that? I just heard it more loudly, or was it just a constant thing for him dating back years, or was it any different now that he was almost close to clearing the gap, and like TBT was his last hurrah in Lexington with fan favorite stuff, try to rekindle that with BBN before going back home and hopefully putting his past behind him. I don't know. That's just me speculating out loud, but the whispers were growing louder and louder and louder. And again, there's not a single soul that I have talked to since Kerr's arrest that even acted remotely surprised that this was a thing. They were like, yep, sounds about right. So sucks that he will not have that moment with BBN. Like, he's just gonna, it's done. Like that's literally all it is. So
yeah.
Hate it. Hopefully, I don't know. We got Quad A Green. What do you think of the Quad A Green addition to TBT? And it's, I don't know if it's been announced yet, but it's going to be DeAndre Liggins. That's going to be the last piece. Spoiler alert. So what do you think?
It's maybe not the biggest star names that you might hope for. If you're a Kentucky fan, they've rounded out the roster with some non-Kentucky guys. Every TBT team does that though, so I don't have any issue with that. You need those guys to
good talent
help
too
and contribute. Yeah, like both years at La Familia, they've had non-UK guys really end up being big contributors. It's nice. Like, Quad A Green hasn't been back, so that'll be fun to get to see him. See if he wears the goggles and all that. DeAndre Liggins, didn't really play with the team too much last season or last year. I think they're going to be a good team. They're going to be one of the better teams in the tournament, but they're probably going to go up against one of the top 2, 3, or 4 best teams in the tournament in that Louisville team, which will be a best of 3. So, they can have a good team, but it won't matter if they can't win that best of 3 to start off with. So The roster, it's fine. You only got one Harrison. You've got some, but you do have some fan favorite type guys that people will be happy to come see and everything. But I think what most fans want out of this is they kind of want like a rotating crew of like different new guys, new UK alums every year, which I just think that's going to be really hard to pull off, to have different guys come in. Like there's only so many guys that are available for this type of thing. And the dreams of bringing in a John Wall or DeMarcus Cousins, I just don't think are ever going to come true. Like John Wall's doing everything but playing basketball right now. Like he's doing everything in the world with basketball except playing basketball right now. So I can't see him coming back just to play for La Familia, but it's gonna be fun. We're gonna be covering it, you and I, for at least one game, hopefully 2 or 3, and more and beyond. But just no Kirk Kriisa. So I got Quad A Green, and I think TBT or La Familia was open about like Quad A Green was already planned. Like he was not just a last minute Kerr replacement. Like he was already he was loaded up and ready to go. So, but it's gonna be fun. It's always just nice to watch the former Kentucky guys play again. The Louisville Magic of that first year when we were in the Freedom Hall was still one of just the coolest sports moments that I've ever been a part of, even for just a random summer game that doesn't matter at all. Just the energy in that game was crazy. But you had Eric Bledsoe and Nate Sestina. You just had guys that were good at basketball. So I do I think because Archie's back, that'll be fun. I really liked getting to hear from Archie last year. But it's nice when you have new guys come in that you can kind of hear their story of what they've been doing since then. So I won't get too much of that outside of Quad A this year. And it's also Willie Cauley-Stein's he's retiring from basketball after this. So that's another reason to go out and watch, is to just go see him play. Because he's a really one of the better personalities we've ever had come through UK. So it'll be fun, but yeah, it's probably lacking a little bit of the star power that you'd want up top, at least.
It is sad that Oscar Sheboy won't be able to participate. There was a window about this big that Oscar was a very real possibility because he's in town anyway, getting married. And it was he didn't get re-upped with the Jazz. So he's looking for a job, and it was hey, the timing might be working out, but that almost kind of ended up working against us because he is just on the prowl for his next NBA job.
Yeah.
And doesn't once you become a TBT player, it kind of,
there's other guys that I'm covering the summer league stuff right now, and there's names that there's a Jacob Toppin, there's Lance Ware, Antonio Reeves. These are the guys that you'd want to bring in. They're all just trying hell right now to get NBA jobs. So they're
too good for TBT right now.
Exactly. They're too good right now for TBT. So we'll see in a few years. But yeah, it's a smaller group of candidates for this roster than you probably would think.
Yeah. So we'll see. I'm looking forward to it. We'll be heading down to North Augusta next Wednesday for Peach Jam. We got rid of that, other Jacob feller. He's now with enemy territory. So now
we'll see him down there.
Now the real gang's back together. See you never, Jacob, little punk. Actually, there was a little comment here earlier that made me laugh.
I was saying that because I
heard through the grapevine that Jacob left because he didn't like Zach. Can you confirm this?
Yeah, Jacob and I hate each other. He's going to be my bachelor party and my wedding and everything. I hate him so much. Terrible guy.
We're all best friends. I would die for Jacob Polachek. He's the best.
Yeah, I love him. He's a great dude.
I hate his guts that he's covering Louisville, but it ain't that deep, guys. He's just doing a job. We are passionate, diehard Kentucky fans. He is a professional journalist who is unbiased and just enjoys the ride of being a sports writer. He doesn't care who he's covering. So yeah, there's beauty in that. So shout out Jacob. I wish him nothing but the worst in covering a lot of losses, but he's going to do a good job.
He'll probably be at Rupp Arena this December or November, whenever that game is.
He might be at Freedom Hall for TBT.
Oh, I forgot. That's right. Yeah, we'll see him at Peach Jam, and then TBT.
Might be at Historic Memorial Coliseum next week.
We should bring him on some rapid reactions.
Oh God, it's gonna be that's gonna be hilarious. All right. Anyway, we got to wrap this thing up because we've been talking for way too long. So, Zach, where can fans find your work?
You can find me, as always, on KentuckySportsRadio.com. You can follow me on Twitter at ZGagan KSR, Or you can watch the show I mentioned earlier, Zoom Action, on the KSR YouTube channel. I do that with my friends Brandon Ramsey and Stephen Peak. We just break down film. We just did one last week on Mason Williams, and kind of our excitement for him potentially being a backup point guard. So yeah, you can find me at all those spots.
Find me on Twitter as well, at Jack Pilgrim KSR. Go subscribe to KSR Plus. Join for $1 right now for a week, and you can get all the fun intel, conversation, behind the scenes scoop, all of that, and then just fun conversations with us knuckleheads over there. We're just absolute goofballs in the best way, and we can talk some ball. We get in the weeds with it, so we have a lot of fun. Make sure you subscribe there. Subscribe right here on the KSR YouTube channel. It keeps Stephen Peak's job alive, because he will get canned if he does not continue to get subscribers. So let's make sure Stephen keeps his job, because we love the Peakster. So for Jack, for Zach, and Stephen behind the camera, we will see you next time. Go Cats.